Welcome to an introduction to educational research. This is the third of 5 of your master's thesis field project worksheets, number 3, the research process, and this one is called the problem statements and research questions. Again, like in the first two, here's a URL for YouTube, and again, if this is difficult, just type in the A745 problem statements and research questions IUP, put that in the search bar in YouTube, and it'll take you to this video right here, Writing Problem Statements and Research Questions, again by Dr. Gary Dean from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. It's about 18 minutes long. And again, this is the intent of these worksheets is to task analyze your Chapter 1 proposal, writing it, and to break it into chunks, and also to present a model for writing problem statements in this case and research questions. So create a Word document and save it as your name _ master's thesis worksheet number 3. Respond to the following prompts below here and then email it to me at happyj1939@yahoo.com, or if you have a different professor, then mail it to that professor. Oh, this has 2 parts. Pardon me. Part 1, using the model presented in the video. First, use one of the hypothetical research projects you developed in the past 2 worksheets to write a problem statement. Second, identify and operationally define all relevant keywords and variables. And third, list some possible research questions your problem statement generates. So that's the first part. Now, when you operationally define something, it is defined in such a specific way that, let's say you operationally defined in-seat behavior. Well, then if you and I were observing a student, we could both agree that when the student was in seat and when the student was not in seat. So the behavior is defined in such a way that people will be able to agree when the behavior is occurring or when the behavior is not occurring. So it's a very specific definition. Okay, now part 2 is a little different here. Also, this assignment requires you to begin to write your Chapter 1. So use the information below and your master's thesis handbook, which really spells it out very specifically. I think maybe from pages 4 to 12, something like that, is it outlines what should be involved in your Chapter 1. So your Chapter 1 should begin with an introduction of approximately 2 to 4 paragraphs, and the information is intended to give the reader a general overview of your area of inquiry. Then you will have a heading called Background, and after your introduction, you will have a section labeled Background. This section should begin with a statement of the problem or thesis statement. Next, this section should present current information that you know about your topic and why this topic is of interest to you. After reading your background section, the reader should think, yes, I see where this idea comes from, and yes, I can see the need for something like this. You should be using research articles, books, educational government statistics if appropriate. Those will be some of the sources. And you should have appropriate citations because your introduction and your background is going to have to follow a logical progression. And each step in that logic chain should be supported by citations from relevant literature. And the next section is your rationale and need. This section should include the theoretical underpinning of your question. Where does your question from, what theoretical basis does your question come from? Does it come from learning theory? Does it come from social justice? Does it come from applied behavior analysis? What theoretical background? Where does it come from? And it should describe a model or theory that underlies your investigation. Where does this area of inquiry stem from? as I said, like learning theory, behavior analysis, social psychology, errorless learning, social justice, and so on. Second, also in this section, you should establish why there is a need for this area of inquiry. And again, appropriate citations from the relevant literature should be included. Well, that's worksheet number 3. This is, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of actually writing your research proposal. So do this and then email it to me at happyj1939 @yahoo.com. Thank you.